You have been diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Yeah.
What kind of a cancer is this?
It's a mesothelioma. It's a lung cancer. Not in the lung. It's in the pleural lining.
Yeah.
It's terminal. It's once you've got it, there's so far there's no cure. The original diagnosis was December 2016, but with the benefit of hindsight, I think in my own mind, I know that it started the year before that. And the reason that I say that is because I'd gone to, in October 2016, I'd gone to my GPs with a repeat of pleurisy, which was the second bout that I'd had in virtually an exact year. In September 2015, I actually got my first bout of pleurisy, and it was, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and it was absolutely excruciating pain in the left side of my chest, and every time I was breathing in and taking in a lungful of air, it was like somebody stabbing needles all over on the inside of my chest. The pain was so bad, I was sort of sat on the edge of the bed with tears rolling down my eyes. And I went to the GPs that morning and basically told them what my symptoms were. And he said, well, it sounds like you've got pleurisy. Let's have a listen to your chest and we'll see how it goes on there. It was pleurisy. What we probably needed to do was give you a course of antibiotics. We'll go and get you an x-ray done just to double check, and we'll take it from there. So got the antibiotics, had the x-ray. X-ray showed that there was a bit of what's called pleural effusion in the bottom of the left side of the lung, which created a sort of shadow. 2-3 weeks after having the antibiotics, all seemed to clear up, back into doing everything else as normal, going to work, doing my cycling. A year later,
you were getting cold.
Yeah, I was getting regular repeat colds, that took ages to clear. But in 2016, it was a year of lots of milestones for me, things that I was wanting to do in relation to my cycling. We went to Mallorca in April and did the Mallorca 312, which is a round the island cycle race. Went away in June with a load of the guys that I was friends with cycling. Had a fabulous holiday with them, loads and loads of cycling with them. We went to France with the daughter and girlfriend in August, but started to notice that things were coming back again. In the early October, we'd gone back to Mallorca. It was sort of supposed to be a bit of a recreational thing, a relaxation thing for us both. And on the first day that we were there, we ended up having a bit of an incident where I touched wheels with Deb, and she came off a bike, went flat on the floor, got a little bit of concussion, a few grazes and bruises. A local guy picked her up, put her in the car, and put her bike in the back of the car. And then I followed on with my bike to the sort of local GPs, got some treatment and so on, and they said, we don't think anything's broken, but we'll see how it goes, and if it's still painful in a couple of days, let's see where we go. So
I was concerned that, being knocked off the bike, that John wasn't going to be able to do his race.
But I knew then that my chest still wasn't right, and I was going to be limited in terms of what I was going to do. And during the course of that week, it got a little bit worse, and I said, right, I'm going to have to go back to the hospital, back to the doctors when I get back home. Did that. I didn't see my own GP, I saw a locum, and he basically said to me straight away, You had pleurisy last year, yeah? Yeah. You've got similar problems now, yeah? Have you an exposure to asbestos when you were younger in your past working life? I said, well, yeah. He said, well, I'm not saying it's that. He said, but I want you to go to hospital and get another x-ray done because I don't like the sound of what I'm hearing. Had my x-ray done, fully expecting to get out and done in half an hour and go back to work. And the radiologist said, can you just stay there? Well, why? What do you want me to stay here for? You've done the x-ray, I want to go. Yeah, but we need to see the other radiologist, senior radiologist, have a look at these x-rays first. Long story short, they basically said, you're not going anywhere. We want you to go upstairs and go into a sort of emergency admission. That led on to them saying, well, this doesn't look right. We think there's something more significant underlying all of this. The options are, we can stick a needle into your back, into your cavity, and take a bit of fluid off, and try and test it look for specific markers for mesothelioma. Or we can arrange for you to go in and have what they call a VATS procedure, where they put a camera between your ribs and take a biopsy actually of the pleural lining, which is ultimately what they ended up doing. Sent me away the next day and said, 7 to 10 days you'll get your results. Never did any more. Felt hugely better because the fluid was gone. Could actually breathe now and wasn't puffing and panting every time I tried to walk up a set of stairs. Surgeon's secretary, and they said, oh, can you come through for an appointment today? I said, well, if I must. I said, but walked in there in the afternoon, and he said, right, well, it's not good news. It's definitely mesothelioma, and because I'd worked in health and safety for 20 plus years, I knew exactly what it was, and I knew that it was a terminal diagnosis. The next question was, well, how long? And surgeons are particularly renowned for not being very good in terms of the bedside manner. And he sort of nonchalantly said, well, weeks, months, and obviously we were absolutely gobsmacked. Drop the biggest bomb you can probably get. And he's saying, well, would you like to go into a sort of a family room and just compose yourself before you go on? And he said, well, I'll arrange for an oncologist to get in touch. And this was 19th of December. Went in to see the oncologist a couple of days later, just before Christmas. We came away from there feeling a little bit better, if you can do that sort of thing. Well, at least I'm now talking in weeks and months. I'm now talking up to a year and possibly more. But you then go into this sort of absolutely strange scenario of trying to think about all the things you need to do. You know, I haven't planned a funeral. I haven't factored in how I'm going to, look after the kids, and all these things sort of, running through your head. From that point on, we started chemotherapy in January, and I was scheduled for 4 cycles. And the routine is you have a treatment, and then you wait 3 weeks, and then you start again. Typically, when people get diagnosed, you go through a regime of bog standard platinum-based chemotherapies.
Right, okay.
And if you can tolerate them, you get them. If you're lucky, it reduces the cancer a little bit.
I'm with you.
If you're mediocre lucky, it holds it. If you're unlucky, it knocks the shit out of you and the cancer keeps growing. And the first cycle was like a walk in the park. I couldn't believe how simple it was and how few ill effects I was having. I wanted to make new memories with the wife and kids. Worked it out based on the information that the oncologist had given us and said, well, this is your window when you really should try to do things. Don't do it in these periods because you're going to be in a really poor way. We went up to Edinburgh in early February and it was absolutely pissing down. It pissed down all weekend. We were getting soaking wet. But we had a fabulous weekend. We really had a really good time. But at the end of that, a combination of the chemotherapy, the wet, picking up, the time of the year, picking up colds, I ended up with pneumonia. Spent 4 days in hospital with pneumonia on a drip for IV antibiotics plus oral tablets. That cleared up. And the week later, I was due to start my third cycle of chemotherapy. I won't go into the details of them, but went ahead with the third cycle, and the third cycle just knocked me for 6. Absolutely floored me. Mm-hmm. And I said to the oncologist, I said, look, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do another cycle. If this is what my quality of life is going to be, and I've only got 12 months supposedly to live, well actually I've used up 3 months of it now. I don't want to spend another 2 or 3 months feeling like this. Let's stop. We went, did some R&R, went back to Mallorca, didn't we? To a different part of the island.
Yeah.
And we went and stayed in Port Sola and had a fabulous week on our own. And I was starting to feel a lot better in the sense that the ill effects of the chemotherapy were subsiding, and then went into this sort of process of being scrutinised for this drug trial. Drug trials are basically the last resort for anybody who's faced with a terminal cancer prognosis. Your options are do it, become a guinea pig in the hope that it helps you in some way, or don't do it and let the cancer run its course. One of the things a lot of people don't realise is when you start on a drug trial, there are certain criteria and parameters. Whatever your cancer type, whether it's a sort of a tight, compact tumour, or in my case, in a tumour that's around the pleural lining, they want to take a measurement and say, right, before you start any treatments, we'll measure that and say, right, that's the point of reference that we're going to keep coming back to throughout the trial to see how it changes. And if it grows, and grows by a set percentage, in this case 20%, doesn't matter how effective it may be in terms of improving the quality of your life, the trial ends, you're off. Which sounds logical, but when you're measuring something, it's a strange thing to use as a yardstick. If I've got a tumour that's that big, and they're telling me it has to grow 20% before I come off the trial, it's got to grow a lot to create 20%. But if my 20% is based on something that's thinner than the sleeve of this jacket, it doesn't have to grow a great deal to exceed that 20%. And that's basically what happened. The doctors were saying to me, I'm sorry, but you're off. That's it. We can't do any more on this particular drug trial. So we were then left with this sort of scenario of, well, okay, I've done that now. Now where do I go? it's very difficult to stay positive when you've got, when you're faced with this prospect all the time of a terminal prognosis. I've given up trying to quantify my life expectancy based on what my doctors tell me. I can't do that anymore because they can't tell me anything. I work on the principle of if I'm waking up and I'm drawing breath, it's a good day. At the end of 2017, when I was in a really poor state of health, both physically and mentally, Deb had been looking at the local dog rescue centre. One of the things that's helped me through, obviously, since my diagnosis, and give me a reason to get up in the morning, is the dog.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know we were getting a dog until my wife turned around and said to me, "Yeah, what do you think about that?" "Oh, it's lovely dog. Should we go and have a look at it?" "Well, why would we go and have a look at it? We haven't even decided we're going to have a dog." "Well, we're going to have a go and look at one." Anyway, we ended up looking at this dog, and first off, it was a means to an end. It was a reason to get me up, get me out, get me mobile,
Sure.
get some fitness back, get a reason to get up every morning.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you're always going to have a reason to get up with your wife and your kids and your family and so on. But I think pets are strange where they don't demand anything other than you being there.
Yeah.
So that was the start of it. One thing Huskies are pretty good at is telling you when it's time to go out, when it's time to, it's time to go for a walk, Dad. He's basically become like another family member. And it's strange. It's strange in the sense that when it comes to things like animals and so on, I would, common words that would fall from my lips would be things like, "What a soft shell. Look at the way they're treating that bloody dog. It's a bloody dog, not a human being." My mindset has just changed so much since having him. He knows when I'm having a bad day. He looks after me spiritually and mentally. Almost 18 months since we've had it. I wouldn't be here as fit and as healthy as I am if it wasn't for him.
Sure.
So I've now reached a point where I know that my condition is getting worse, but I want it's the pleasure that he's brought me.
Yeah.
And I want him as a sort of, it's almost like like how somebody would die and take a photograph or a look of hair. For me, that's what that represents.
So, John, it's an absolute pleasure to have you sitting here doing this tattoo.
Thank you.
I know it means a lot to you.
It does.
What would you say is the main reason why you're here?
Anybody who knows me, they'll all tell you the same thing. There's absolutely no way that he will have a tattoo. And my own family members, first and foremost, they've heard me say 1,000,001 times, "Don't you dare get a tattoo. What have you got one of them for? They look bloody awful." I started out of curiosity more than anything, watching tattoo fixers towards the back end of 2018. And for me, it was, Tattoo Fixers is one of those programs that is basically, it's one of those things where you unzip your forehead, lift your brain out, put it on the side, and just watch it. And you watch it for the titillation and so on. But the thing that was really sort of getting me was when I was watching Pash and Uzzi doing their tattoos. Their realism tattoos was, I couldn't get my head around how they were able to, basically take pots of ink and colour and, shave somebody's body and stick needles in it with a machine and turn it into this artwork. I kept recording them and watching them, and every time I watched them, I was looking to see, when were they going to do more of these realism tattoos. And I got to a point where I thought to myself, I might actually be convinced into getting a tattoo. How do I say, after all these years of me chastising and berating people for having tattoos, how do I get one? How do I broach the subject? But my rationale for getting one was, I want a tattoo of the dog. I mean, this is one of the things that terminal cancer does for you, is that it changes your whole outlook and perception on life. You're no longer obsessed about the trivia. What becomes important now is happiness, memories, well-being. Why do I want a tattoo of the dog? I want a tattoo of the dog because he's been such a big part of my life. I want that with me when I go. I'm not an emotional person normally, but it's the comfort it gives me. The thought of having that done. I've got it fixed in my mind. I'm going to do it. What I've got to do now is broach the subject with my wife and see what she thought. Been together since I was 18 and she was 16.
Wow, that is a long. So how many years in total?
35 years.
Wow. What's the secret?
Give and take. It's as simple as that.
Give and take.
Give and take, yeah.
So for us dumb people, what does that mean?
Well, it means, don't believe that everything you say or do is right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, it's a partnership.
It is.
You've got to sacrifice.
Both got to make it work.
Yeah, and you've got to compromise. That's the main
Compromise.
thing. You've got to be willing to say, okay,
Yeah.
I no longer can do whatever I did before
That's right.
because it impedes on
I see what you mean now. Yeah.
our collective well-being.
Yeah, some nice words, man.
But then find things that you both like to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then enjoy them. I mean, in the years that we've been together, me and the missus, we spent the best part of a decade scuba diving all over the UK and around the world.
Nice.
And then we did 5 years or more cycling together.
Get out of it.
Just lots of different things, Normally these things would be new bikes, holidays abroad, changing the car, that sort of thing. So today I said, what do you think if I got a tattoo of the dog on my back? And I think it was a case of, you want what? It wasn't an out and out no. It was more of a gobsmack situation of, you do? So then I ended up sending an email, sometime, I think it was just before Christmas of 2018, to the guys here at White Room Tattoos and said, I've got a strange request, bear with me, and explained that I've got terminal cancer. Would you be, would you be prepared to actually do a tattoo for me? Really pleased when I got the response that I got. In the normal scheme of things, if you're planning something at Christmas time for April, for most people it's, okay, let's do it. But for me, or anybody in my position that's got terminal cancer, the question then becomes, will I be here? But I thought, right, I don't care. Convention goes out the window. I'm booking the sessions. I'm booking the flights. I'm booking the time off for the, to get somebody to look after the dog while we're away. And I'm committing all of this time and effort and money, not knowing whether I'm actually going to get here. I kept trying to avoid building my hopes up too much to say, yes, it's finally going to happen. I'm going to be there. My health has deteriorated quite a bit in the last sort of 6 to 12 weeks, just because of the disease progression. Even 2 weeks ago, Deb was saying, we're nearly there. Just 14 days, just 7 days. And I said, let's just wait and see. Let's just see what happens. And then the night before of the plan for 2, it was upon us. And it was, yeah, we've got it. Positive mental attitude, we've got where we wanted to be. We got our flight down on Monday night.
Yeah.
We never took, that's the other thing. That was, we deliberately didn't tell anybody anything about it. But all the conversations that we've had through social media and the phone and so on, they just can't believe it. And because we'd had 2 days planned here to actually do my tattoo, and Pash was able to actually get it done in 1 day, Deb, who had never had a tattoo in her life either, also did the dirty deed. And now all her family are saying,
The wind-up.
it's a wind-up, you haven't done it. And they're not going to believe it until they see it with their own eyes when we get back tomorrow. I've been looking forward to it so much and not really knowing what to expect. And all of my preconceived ideas about tattoos, tattooists, the people that get them, it's all been blown out the water. And we've had such a fantastic time.
Oh, yeah.
It's been phenomenal. It just blows my mind seeing what these guys are doing. And the hard part now is what happens next. Is there going to be a part 2 where another tattoo comes out of the equation? And the answer to that one is I don't know. Every single penny I've spent arranging this has been worth it. It's not the done thing for everybody. And tattoos aren't cheap. For anybody at the best of times. And I don't think how much I've spent on this from beginning to end, but I don't care. It's immaterial. It's what it's given me, both physically and mentally. So I know that, whenever my time comes, when I go, okay, there's a great piece of artwork that's on my back that's going to go up in smoke with me in the crematorium. Unless Debbie decides to get it cut off and framed, which apparently you can do. But I'll be extremely disappointed if she does do that, because it's supposed to be going with me up in a pile of smoke. But in my mind, when I go, me and the pooch are going together.